Okay, this time we are gonna talk about a little bit different from what we have been talking about in law and economics. What is the difference? I emphasize the efficiency all the time. Okay, efficiency, efficiency. I judged everything by efficiency. Now, we are not so much talking about efficiency. We will talk about fairness or helping the poor people. Okay. Namely, when you are a judge and make a verdict, one thing is, like the efficiency or, something like that. And then, should the judge also thinking about taking care of the poor people? Okay, here, number one, uh, contrary to many people's belief, the economist cares about the equality, okay, equity, and helping the poor people. Should the rich people help the poor people? Absolutely yes. Probably every economist would say that. There's no dispute on this. The poor people should be helped by the society. But then, the next question is, but that does not automatically imply the court and the law and the judge should take care of the poor people when there is a sue going on. Should a court consider the redistribution of wealth, which means moving the wealth, asset, money from the rich people to the poor people, so that the poor people would be helped? And the answer, we'll see, is not really. Okay? Isn't it contradiction that number one, you said the rich people should help the poor people, and number two, the court should take care so that the poor people would win more or would get more compensation rather than the rich people. What does that mean by court doing that? Okay, we are gonna consider it next, but let's assume that a BMW caused some accident to the Hyundai Sonata or small car. Or the other, the small Hyundai Sonata, poor person hit the rich guy's car. Okay, if you do not care about richness and poorness of the involved people, there should not be any difference whether this old poor car, the old car owned by a poor person, hit the expensive car of rich person, or the expensive car of rich person hit the old car driven by a poor person. But then, if the court should consider this rich and poor factor, then you are saying, if you insist that the judge should make the expensive car owner pay maybe $200 to when it hits the old car, if it's charged 200. When the poor old car hits the expensive car, the penalty should be not 200, maybe 100. So that, like you are a rich person, just don't get greedy on this. This poor person, $100 big money. On the other hand, for you, 200 nothing, something like that. Should a court do that? And the reason why this is really not is we have another way of doing that. If this is the only way for the government to redistribute wealth from the rich person to poor person, maybe the government should doing this. But then we have, other than the quota system, we have something called tax system, okay, the IRS, Internal Revenue Service. And then they have a accumulative, progressive tax system, which means the rich guy pays more and poor guy more tax, and poor guy does not pay so much tax. So we already doing the redistribution of wealth through tax. So the question is more like, when we are already doing the redistribution of wealth by tax, should the court do this redistribution thing in addition to the tax system? And then probably the economists say, not necessarily, no. Think about this. As I said, Hyundai makes expensive car, but let's say it's like small and cheap Hyundai car against very expensive BMW or Mercedes-Benz and Ferrari, whatever. Okay, there are car accidents between them. And if the judge thinking about redistribution of wealth, his verdict would be in favor of the Hyundai owner. Okay, maybe BMW should pay more to Hyundai car pay less to BMW, and things like that, vice versa. Okay. The problem with this is, does the judge know how wealthy they are? I mean, we usually think the judge knows everything. He's a smart guy. He's inside the system. The answer is no. I mean, it's really private information how much Professor Han is making. Okay? Professor Han is me driving a very old car. I purchased car 2002, still driving, which means my car is 19 years old. Okay? And then, to be exact, 18.9 years old. Okay? And then, the judge knows how wealthy I am. Okay, judging from my car, I'm a poor guy. Maybe I'm not. And probably the best positioned person to know how wealthy I am is the tax bureau. Okay, they have all tax related, my income and everything. However, they never tell the judge. It's a private information. So the only information for the judge to tell whether this Professor Han is rich or not, he drive BMW. Oh, he looks like a rich guy. If he drives like 20-year-old Hyundai car, oh, he looks poor. But then this information is never accurate. Okay, when the university staff member who's in charge of giving scholarship to the poor student, they say, so when on the paper the student is very poor and he come to the office to receive the scholarship, they're very surprised that they look really wealthy. Okay, so from outside, you never know who's rich and who's poor. And I know a lot of very rich people still driving a very old car. Okay, they look humble, their clothes are cheap, and sometimes I know some people who look very fancy wearing expensive clothes and driving expensive car, but they are really very poor. Okay, so it's simply too much to ask the poor judge to get to know and exactly guess who's rich and who's poor. Sometimes the judge verdicted in favor of Hyundai car owner because he looks poor, and BMW who looks rich. Maybe the Hyundai car owner owns like 5 companies and like 100 apartments and things like that, houses and things like that. So lack of information. That's why this court system can never be an exact organization to redistribute wealth when you do not know who's rich and who's poor. Number 2, if you do that, the rich person stop driving BMW. They will change to the Hyundai car, very old Hyundai car, or very old another car and things like that. Okay? Because they say, oh, so if I drive an expensive car, if there's any car accident, I would be judged. The verdict would be very unfavorable to me. Why would I do that? So they change. Okay? If the judge said, oh, the truck driver, they must be poor. And BMW, they rich. What do? The BMW, instead of BMW, they change to the truck to go to the company, even though he's very, or she is very rich. So we can observe that. We call that distortion of the economy. Okay? People wanted to BMW, but they, because of government, do something else. So this is very highly probable in reality, and that gives a that also causes inefficiency to the economy. Once again, if this is the only way to do redistribute the wealth, we should do it. But think about that. The tax bureau has much more accurate information than the judge, who's wealthy and who's poor. And instead of charging penalty on BMW, they just, because this BMW owner changed to Hyundai, even though he's rich, the court system would not give him a huge penalty, so no redistribution. But the tax bureau knows whether you are Hyundai owner or there are two Hyundai owners, one make $1 million, the other make $10. The tax bureau knows. So instead of charging tax on their car, based on their car, they can charge exactly based on their income and wealth. So the tax bureau wins. So in criterion number 1, number 2, the tax bureau can do much better job than the court. So when person A can do much better job than person B, instead of doing A and B, we just don't apply B, make A do it more thoroughly. Then we can accomplish the equity criterion better. Okay? Number 3, I think this is also important. When the government protect the poor people, when there's a car accident or there's a dispute over contract, what would be happening? If you're a rich person, you are kind of hesitant to go to the area where a poor person lives. Or when you're a rich person, you have a building, you want to have a rent to someone. Number A, nice person but poor. Number B, nasty person but rich. I mean, usually I would rent my first floor shop to the not poor but nice person, hardworking. But then you realize if there's any dispute between any fight in the future with this poor person, the court will be in favor of the poor person, not you. But what about this rich person who wants to rent your shop? If there's any dispute over the rental contract, the court will be in favor of me. So, who would you choose? You almost have chosen the nice poor person, but then you realize it's much more profitable to have a contract with this nasty rich person. Who would benefit, the poor person or rich person? The rich person. Because they have more business opportunity. On the other hand, the poor person, the government intention is good, they want to protect him or her, but because of government protection, any person who's wealthier than this person, poor person, is really hesitant to any business deal with them. If the poor area, you drive your BMW, go there, there's any accident, the chances are you have to pay hugely for the car accident. On the other, in the rich area, you go there, any accident, maybe you will get paid. But then everybody moved to the rich area for their business and dining and things like that. On the other hand, the poor person would lose. Like it's like Corona phenomenon, like nobody comes to your area, then you lose the opportunity of making business out of it. So kind of wrong way of protecting the person might cause more damage to the person because people say, I don't want to have a business with them because any trouble, I pay everything kind of thing. On the other hand, if it's based on tax, I mean, if the redistribution is based on tax, whether you go to this area A, area B, you will pay the same tax. So you have no reason to avoid the poor people's area. So that would not affect badly to the poor people as number 3 has predicted. So, I mean, the economist has like a warm heart, however, has a very cold brain. So when it seems the intention is good, but in reality, if you do not think with cool head, cool brain, the effect would be reversed. Okay, so you want to help the poor people, you may hurt them. Okay, so that's one thing to talk about, and I'm gonna finish the first chapter of the property right with this. Thank you.